Well, news just coming in. A senior MP from Pakistan and former ambassador has now claimed that Pakistan has trained Hamas terrorists. He claimed that many of the terrorists were trained by the Pakistani army. We are going to get you the latest on that from Shivani in just a bit. Shivani, stay with us, but let's listen into that reaction that earlier came in and has caused quite a stir.
यहाँ जिक्र किया गया सबरा और शतीला का। मैं जब ट्यूनिस गया 81 में, तो वहाँ पर उस वक्त अबू जिहाद वहाँ ज़िंदा थे। मुझे उनसे भी मिलवाया गया। उन्होंने कहा कि जब कभी इसराइल के साथ लड़ाई होती है, जंग होती है, कई झड़पें होती हैं, तो सबसे ज़्यादा मुअस्सर लड़ने वाले वो होते हैं जिन्होंने पाकिस्तान के अंदर मिलिट्री ट्रेनिंग ली होती है। और यहाँ पर उनकी मिलिट्री ट्रेनिंग होती रही है, अब भी हो रही है।
Shivani, this comment that is coming in is causing quite a stir. But, in intelligence circuits, it was often talked about as to how perhaps Pakistan has continuously been training Hamas terrorists.
Nupur, see, this is not for the first time when Pakistan's face of being a terrorist-friendly country has been exposed. Now, the leader himself, who's from Pakistan, he has claimed that the terrorists of Hamas were being trained since last 40 decades by the Pakistani army, and they are being trained now also. See now, Nupur, India has been facing this problem of Pakistani supporting the terrorists since so long. It has been fighting the intrusion of terrorists who have been getting training in Pakistan. There are launch pads. Republic has accessed the reports a number of times,
Shivani,
exposing Pakistan training the terrorists.
You there.
And now,
stay with us. Let's also bring in Major Gaurav Arya, who now joins me on the phone line. Good morning, Major Arya. Major Arya, this comment that came in from a person who was the former ambassador of Pakistan to Egypt. He's held several posts within the Pakistani establishment. In a sense, essentially, once again exposes Pakistan's duplicitous role.
No, absolutely. As far as Pakistan training people, non-state actors, terrorists goes, as I believe is the expose here, it comes as no surprise, actually, and we should be surprised. Every nation has a skill set. America has technology, India has information technology, India also has space. Pakistan has terrorism, and, more number of terrorist groups exist inside Pakistan than government departments. I know you'll find that difficult to believe that in a large bureaucracy such as Pakistan, there are more terrorist groups, registered, bona fide terrorist groups, which, are actually recognized by the United Nations as being terrorist groups. More of them exist inside Pakistan than government departments. So this comes as absolutely no surprise.
Absolutely. As you're pointing out, of course, this doesn't come as a surprise. But, the part where he says that we've been doing this for a long time. In fact, if there is a terrorist who's successful in the Hamas, he has to have been trained by Pakistan and the Pakistani army. Now, that is something, that obviously the Pakistani establishment, this kind of a disclosure will have to look into.
No, absolutely. See, Pakistan knows what it is doing, and it's doing it with eyes wide open. This is not something that Pakistan tries to hide very well, which is why Pakistan is in the grey list of the FATF. They train terrorists. They've done so in Kashmir, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, and the Hizbul Mujahideen here. Then also terrorist organizations like the Lashkar-e-Jangvi and other terrorist organizations. You talk about the Haqqani network or the Quetta Shura, or the ones facing Iran, Sunni outfits facing a largely Shia Iran. This is something that Pakistan has been doing. This is part of Pakistan's foreign policy to try and exert pressure, try and exert influence on other countries. Pakistan will not do it by information technology or trade. They will not do it by the space program or medicine or vaccination. Their diplomacy is based on coercion, and one method of doing it is terrorism and nuclear blackmail. This is what Pakistan does.
Right, Major Arya, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. Let's go back to All right, joining me right now on the phone line is Major General G.D. Bakshi. Major General, good morning. Thank you for speaking to us on Republic TV. Now, this disclosure that comes in from a man who's been at the helm of several top posts in the Pakistani government. He was the leader of the opposition. He was also, Pakistan's ambassador to Egypt, is bound to cause some kind of repercussions, hopefully, for Pakistan. Because, in that statement, he clearly says that Pakistan has been training terrorists of the Hamas. And in fact, there's a saying that if they are successful, perhaps they've been trained in Pakistan. Your comments?
Pakistan has made its business, its take-up, to interfere all over the world in the internal matters of other countries. It wants to interfere in France. It wants to slit the throat of women going to a church in France. It wants to aid the Hamas. It wants to aid the Hezbollah. It wants to aid the Syrian rebels. It wants to aid all the insurgents and jihadi elements in Central Asia and Caucasus. Who the hell is Pakistan? The world will have to hold it to account. What business has it got to, have such extraterritorial ambitions all over the world? It's not the new caliphate by any chance. It is a bankrupt nation on the verge of absolute economic collapse, and yet it wants the right to interfere in the internal affairs of countries all over the world. How long will the world put up with it? We have put up with it for 75 years because, we have very little option. It's our neighbor. It is a headache. So is it a headache for Afghanistan. So is it a headache for Bangladesh, for Nepal, for Sri Lanka, for India, for Iran, for all its neighbors. Pakistan is an international migraine. And I think the world will have to take steps to cure themselves of this migraine.